Everybody can hear me? Good evening from Cordoba. Can everybody hear okay? Oh yeah, people are typing, lovely. Hello, good evening. Well, we're honoured to be here celebrating the 60th anniversary from Cordoba, the origins of IH. And what we're talking about today is a couple of years ago we set up an experimental iPad project. We had some generous financial and moral support from the school, so from an initial 4 iPads, we now have 1 per teacher. What we have done before is we wrote an article for the IH Journal, and this may answer some questions that people may have. Have you got the link there, Tim?
Yeah.
Tim should be putting up the link now. This might answer some questions such as why Apple, some technical questions like how to project, why we decided to give the teachers the iPads and begin a bring your own devices approach rather than having class sets. There's several things that are covered in that article, so we won't actually try, because of time, to repeat that. The second link, have you got that as well?
Yeah.
We've got my beautiful assistant Tim, who you'll be seeing later. The second link is our bibliography, which is being used by Pinterest. So there's a series of range of articles, pins, there's some infographics, and some examples of the work that we've been doing, like some links, some work of Podges and Nick's. We will be adding to this, depending on what kind of people want to see. Okay, I'm going to change the slide. Ah, right, that's us. That wasn't the slide I wanted. Anyway, that's the team. It's been very much a team effort. So when we approached to talk today, what we decided to do was talk about each of our interest areas and the way we feel that experimenting with the iPads has changed ours and our students' perceptions about how we learn and teach. The chalk face font that we've used for this and background, I think, reflects the day-to-day implementation and experimentation that's actually going on in the class. So these are what people are going to be speaking about during the next 3/4 of an hour, we hope, and then we'll have time for questions. So Sue is now going to be speaking about using mobile phones. So here we do a quick changeover. Thank you.
Hello everybody, happy anniversary, happy Hanukkah, happy Thanksgiving, all those things. I'd say the first day I walked into class with my new iPad in my hand and I passed it around and all the adult students whipped out their mobile phones to start sharing favourite apps, as you would do. I suddenly realised, what was I going to do next? Say, okay, switch them off, put them back in your pockets? But my iPad's staying here on the table. It seemed almost perverse not to permit students, whatever their age, to use their equally wonderful mobile phones. And since then, students have come in and put their phones on the table in full view, and we feel like we're at the beginning of something new and exciting. Still only using them in a very, very basic way, but slowly working towards the more creative activities and getting more ambitious as we go. And having a mobile device for teaching also makes you realise the new old skills we need to teach, like curating, searching, using Creative Commons, being able to evaluate and question information received online, not forgetting social responsibilities, as well as students' natural curiosity and imagination in creating and publishing online. So here they are. These are all photos taken by my students with my iPad, and you can see all the different things we do with our mobile phones in class. I haven't got one. But anyway, top left is the first activity I get all classes to do, practically on the first day. Find someone who's got the same phone as you, and sit in groups helping each other to connect to the class Wi-Fi, which always takes quite a while. Find the voice recorder, which nobody knows where it is, and airplane mode, but with Wi-Fi switched on. Airplane mode with Wi-Fi stops phone calls and messages coming in. And this takes a while because it's amazing how few people know where the voice recorder is. Next to that, and at the bottom, you can see students taking photos from the whiteboard rather than giving them losable and unfileable photocopies. And the vast majority of students use Google Drive, which you can see in the top right, for note-taking and filing. All age groups also love using mind maps for recording vocab. And this one that you can see in the center is Simple Mind, free. It's cross-platform, Apple and Android. They also use Google Drive for collaboration, for sharing projects and writing. And unsurprisingly, they're so much more likely to do 3 or 4 drafts digitally than with a pen. The back button is one of the greatest inventions ever. And we use Twitter for class communication. Students who are away, extra reading and writing, listening, just fun stuff. Going down on the right, you can see 3 photos of the typical type of reference work that we do constantly during class time. We're always saying, oh, quick, someone have a look, Google this. They use thesaurus.com, the website, not the app, because the app's rubbish, sorry, but it is, for synonyms and word formation. Even lower levels love this website, and it weans them off constantly translating. Google to resolve arguments, because conversation as an art is what I use in class, let's face it. And we often need a higher authority to settle things, because they think they know better than me. An Ngram viewer for collocation or grammar word queries. Ngram viewer is fabulous. You can see that down in the bottom right-hand corner. Note the broken screen. My teens seem to be going through an inverse snobbery, faded jeans kind of thing. See who can bring in the most beaten up, oldest phone possible, and they're often just compensating for the fact that most of them are using hand-me-downs, and happily so. Next to the Ngram viewer and in the center are photos of possibly the most important activity, recording their own voices, either on their own or together. Here you can see them preparing exam monologues or comparing photos for Cambridge exams. Partners ticking off a checklist next to them because 4 ears are always better than 2, and also recording conversations. We record relentlessly, as much as possible, even if they're just checking an exercise together. And then they go home with a list of questions like, how do you agree? How do you disagree? How do you react to what your partner says to keep the conversation going? How many times do you say, and? Can you hear all your S's? Things like that. Just trying to get them to be aware of how they sound to each other, what they need to try and change, whether it be the expressions or simple tone of voice. And we use QR codes to connect with the study centre. You can see one of the boys connecting to the study centre there, and the lovely helpful Mila. The final 2 bottom photos were ones that they insisted that be included. There are issues, but they're not without a solution. The younger the students, the fewer the mobile phones, but fomenting certain values like sharing and collaborating are important, and we have the iPad for that. Okay? All right, thank you.
Hello. Happy anniversary. Okay, yes, thank you. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the benefits of having benefits for students on having iPads. It seems at the minute that the number of people who've got iPads is increasing every day, and I think it's fair enough that some people might be asking, is it just another technology whim? Are they going to last? And do they have any real benefits for the people using them? 2 things that the iPad does. The first is it brings a lot of educational tools together. For example, things which used to be separate big pieces of equipment like sound recorders, video cameras, the internet, possibly course books, note-taking facilities. So it's obvious that the iPad is really efficient and convenient for that. The second thing, and most importantly, is that they really do enhance the learning of the students that we're teaching today. And I think another thing that we need to consider is changing our perception of the students we're teaching nowadays. Students are interacting completely differently with the world compared to the way they did in previous generations. I'm thinking mainly about teenagers because they're the age group that I've mainly experimented with using the iPads, but they're digital natives, which means that they're technology savvy,
They're always connected, they're always stuck to some kind of mobile device. They are used to the instant communication of information. They share their thoughts and their opinions electronically. So this makes the iPad the most natural medium for them to use in their learning environment. It's already embedded into their thought process, so automatically we've got higher interest and higher motivation. Okay, so a few things which benefit the students inside the classroom. So, for example, if they're researching something, they have got instantaneous access to information, not just one source, which in the past may have just been the course book. And if they use the internet to access information, it's all authentic, it's real, and it's personal to them. Again, if they can quickly and efficiently look up words, they can find examples of language in real context online. They can use online language forums like Word Reference, which are fantastic, and they're relevant and personal to them. Tim's going to talk a bit about sound apps. It's fantastic that the students can record their own voices, they can listen back to themselves, they can practice their pronunciation. They get immediate feedback from the teacher, from each other, and they can hear their own progress immediately, which again is going to boost their confidence. Again, games, there's so many interactive games and apps which can be used to reinforce and practice language, keeping everything fun as well. And the iPad has great facilities for taking photos, for editing videos, so it really lends itself to creativity. Okay, and thinking about outside of the classroom, I think we need to change our perception on when the learning is actually taking place, because one of the great things the iPad has done is take away the limits of specific class times and specific classrooms. Basically now what happens in the classroom is just a starting point for then what the students can go away and do in their spare time. They can read, they can listen, they can study outside of actual class time. They can also use things like online learning platforms to share information with each other. They can contact each other and their teacher. If they've got ongoing projects, they've got the time and now a device which lets them be creative. I think the most important thing is that the iPad is a personal device. They've got instant access to so much authentic information, and they can access things that they are interested in. So if it's things they want to listen to, things they want to read. So it really is turning the learning experience into a leisure activity as well. And I think really helping the students become self-directed learners. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm going to briefly talk about my experience using an iPad with the 6 to 12-year-olds. What I'm going to talk about specifically is probably 6 to 10-year-olds, and basically what it's like for you as a teacher to be given an iPad and then to find out what you can do with it. And basically I want to express the discovery of a great channel for the creative impulse or the creative urgency of that age group. And that has led then to a great deal of confidence within the students, because they're using the language effectively. They're using it in a way that they understand it. When I first started teaching, at the end of every year I would have a stack of drawings that children had done, and I would always be reluctant to throw them in the bin. And I always wanted to find a way to make that creativity less disposable. The kids were always desperate to express and to show off what they had done and what was theirs. And because I was the English teacher, they would always try and explain it to me in English. And I wanted to find a way to make use of that in the classroom. The second picture in the middle here, this is Jimmy. Jimmy is an invention of another teacher, Lewis Ross. And after seeing the success he had with Jimmy in his classroom, I started to use him in mine. He is a badly drawn stickman, and that is extremely important, because the kids then take ownership of Jimmy and they can use him, they can draw him, and they can tell their own stories using him. This is a flashcard that I've used. This flashcard is multi-purpose. This one has been used for present continuous. He's playing football. It's been used for live plus ing because he's smiling, and his favourite sport and all that. What I noticed was, because we were using Jimmy in the classroom, that the children would go home and when they had sentences to write, for example, they would write and draw a picture to go with the sentence. They understood the language more visually than they did when they were writing it. And because I had an iPad and I was reluctant to throw away the nice things that they were drawing for me, I started taking photographs. And the third picture here, when I took the photograph of this picture, this is present simple. And when I took that picture, all the other kids in the class went home, came in the next day with another picture of Jimmy in another situation. So I took pictures of all the kids' pictures, and the fourth picture here on the right, you can see this is what happens when you put the picture through a scanning app on the iPad, which makes it look somewhat better, it makes it look professional, and the kids can kind of see what it is. What I did then was I made a folder of the photographs on the iPad and showed the kids the pictures and flicked through the pictures, and they would repeat the sentences, and they loved the activity. But then I thought about EduCreations, and EduCreations is a fantastic app which allows you to record your voice over a series of whiteboards. And what I did was I put the pictures into the whiteboards and recorded the children repeating their own sentences, which is a great opportunity then to iron out any problems that they have with pronunciation. It also allows you to have more fun with the kids, because as you can see in the next picture, we have the school branding and present, which we've made kind of a production house for the school. And we put this at the beginning of the videos and make the video look like a film. So every week the kids make a film, or at the end of every grammar section or lexical set, they would make a film to do with Jimmy. Basically what this has done is it's allowed me to make a series of videos, and the videos you can be used again and again and again in the classroom. The kids sometimes will refuse to do anything until they can re-watch one of their other videos. They will remember all of the grammar perfectly. You can also share the videos then through Twitter with the kids' parents, and they absolutely love them. What this has allowed me to do is that the kids are now creating and co-producing an entertaining and permanent record, which is memorable, organic, and overall for them it's meaningful. Basically, my point is that as we see the technologicalization of learning, what we're doing is we're finding ways to make things happen that aren't possible. We're not going in there with a preset mind of what we can do. This is something that organically happened in the classroom when I was teaching, and it's something that the kids led me to find out about. And the other thing that I have to say is that when you're doing this, everything else, the flashcards from books, this is much more effective. The confidence in the kids is amazing because they've taken absolute ownership of their classroom. And of course, they don't own iPads, so this is the only way that you can engage with them, with that age group. Okay?
I think it's in there.
How do I change that? Just oh, I ruined everything.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Okay. Think hello. Okay, so kind of like Podge's idea there with a very young age group, the idea that kids can take ownership of what they're doing, make projects. I wanted to do my whole thing on projects today because a couple of months ago I started a new unit in my FCE books, a very familiar topic that we've got in nearly every book that I've ever used, which is going to be the film industry or entertainment industry, lots of vocabulary for film. And earlier in the year I did a little project with the Hispanic school here, and we made like a little video, and I showed the students our silly music video that we made, and I let them know that basically if they want to do a project, I'll match them for whatever enthusiasm they put into it. If you want, we can sit down and we can do work from the book only, and we can do exam practice, but if you want to get carried away, then I'll get carried away too. And I did that because I knew that with an iPad, I've got all the facilities that I need to do so many different projects. Well, this really took off. Actually, one of my colleagues, Katie Kelly, was with her CAE and one of our CE groups was thinking of doing a video because it was coming up to Halloween, and she mentioned it to me, and I said, well, this works perfectly with what I'm doing. So we started off with a book. This is not us changing the way that we teach. We've got a book, we've got a unit, and they start learning the vocabulary from that unit, and the first thing they've got to do after that is a creative story. So I said, okay, now let's use the iPad, let's brainstorm, let's try and get a picture up of all the different genres of film. If we're going to go with terror and horror, because it's coming up to Halloween, let's see how we can divide that. We use the iPad quite a lot for that. Then they go away, they write their stories, they come back, I scan their stories, they put the stories up on the board, they tell the stories. I turn the iPad into a little fire from YouTube, and they sit around and tell horror stories, and we work out which one we like the best. From the horror story that they like the best, they then start doing a collective writing. They change the story a little bit, and then we start making a screenplay. With the screenplay, well, quite a lot of these stories, as you can imagine, would have needed an awful large budget and a cast of millions and that. So we started thinking about the reality of what we could do. And for 2 of my classes, we met on days off. I said, this is totally voluntary. If you don't want to do this, great. Okay, we don't need to do this. But they were so infused with this that they've gone away and we filmed movies. We made a whole shooting schedule, and all the vocabulary that we've been learning in class suddenly became real, because I've got people like they might have a small part in the production, but they're also going to be prop man. We've got someone doing continuity, we've got someone on clapperboard, someone writing down the shooting schedule, someone directing. The only thing we didn't have was anyone producing and trying to get a budget for us. And I was amazed and so pleased and really proud at how hard they worked on this and the final outcome. We used a couple of apps. The best app for this has been iMovie, which is one of the iWorks suite, and we've just got a whole load of new iPads here, so it's free. I think when I got this, it was a paid app, and it wasn't one of the cheap paid apps. It was probably about £8, but that's, in the big scheme of things, how much would it cost to get a video camera? They filmed these. They held the camera. I didn't touch the camera. They held them. Someone else directed. I was on hand to merely supervise. I must admit, I did the editing, which is so easy, and no teacher should be put off from doing this editing. If you have a look at the iMovie app, it's so simple. And we made trailers for the films that we were going to make. I'm going to show you one of these trailers now. If you're watching this on an iPad, I don't think it's going to come up. But if you go to the link that we're just about to put up. If you put it up, okay, so the link up there. So if you're watching this on an iPad, go to the link. If you're not, if you're watching this on a PC, I'll start playing it now. Jen, can you press play on that? Oh, sure, play that. Hear me. If you can hear me while we're doing this, I'm really pleased with the outcome of all the videos they made. They love them. I've got consent from all of their parents so that they can actually share them. They can put them on YouTube and show each other. show their friends, show their family. They've been massively motivated by this, and it's really brought me closer to all of the students who are involved. I combined this class, one of my classes with one of my college classes who also made them, and we started writing reviews about the other people's film as though they'd seen it. And the very last thing that I've done with this project is, which I thought was a nice way of finishing this off, is because they've come out of this now with a good creative writing, a good review, they've made a film, they've learned and used all this vocabulary, and using the iPad, I did FaceTime interviews with people in the film industry. I got an editor in Hollywood who, once he'd seen the video, was so excited about doing this, and absolutely, you know, it was so great for the students to have a projector on the board and they can ask all the questions. And yesterday it was a film critic from The Independent and lots of movie magazines. When you show people what you're doing with language classes in lots of industries, you'd be amazed how forthcoming they are to want to help. So I found this has been a brilliant project that was not about the iPad, but couldn't have been done without the iPad. Thank you. Bye.
Hi. Oh, it's Tim. Right, Tim.
Hi everybody, my name is Tim Kelly. I'm going to be talking about using the iPad and speaking skills. Now, the first thing I did when I got an iPad was work out what exactly could I do with speaking, and a colleague gave me the Macmillan Sound app. If you look at the apps on the blue there, you can see the Macmillan Sounds app at the top. This was a very useful tool, even at higher levels, but of course it was only looking at accuracy at a very basic level. We're talking about individual sounds and words. So I started looking around for work on fluency, and there are very few apps available for connected speech. The first thing I did was I got hold of Quick Voice, which is an instant recording app. You can see that, the blue one on the top left-hand corner. You get instant recording and playback, and so once you have that, both teachers and students get feedback on connected speech. And the good thing with these kind of apps is that apps can send recordings from students to teacher, from students to students, so it actually starts to take the learning and speaking skills beyond time and place in the classroom. So you could ask your students to say, record for 1 minute about where they live, about their family, etc. Now, the good thing about this, over on the right hand side, you've got little faces representing students. They get drilling and repeated practice before going public. So they're at home, they record it. If they don't like it, they record it again, they send it to a friend. I've also asked them to do some work on SoundCloud. If we go over to the left again, you've got an orange wave. Using an app like SoundCloud, I could listen, and I can put small comments on there to pinpoint certain pronunciation problems. So if you have something like a wave, you can go back over to the right-hand side. You've got their wave pads, and using the waves there, the sound waves, you could actually begin in the class to help students to learn what streams of speech looks like in English. And in first certificate and higher levels, we were looking at sense groups and being aware of when you have to pause after a sense group is finished. And this was very eye-opening for students. Now, with the voice recognition software that we've got, again on the right-hand side at the top, on the iPad you've got Siri, and you've also got below that on the same slide, you've got their Dragon dictation. Now, both of these can be difficult, even for native speakers sometimes, to be recognized. But as a learner of English, it's quite useful to learn to accommodate your delivery so that people can understand you. So there's a game to kind of learn or teach the software to understand you. Now, after experimenting with voice recording, I moved on to, as we go down to the bottom left-hand corner, to adding voice to multimedia and to photos, for example. This was really motivating in the class. And recent work, if we go to the right-hand corner, has been getting students to show and tell, make a narrative. This is a new app which has only been out for about 2 or 3 months, I think. It's only available on Apple devices at the moment. The good thing about this is that the language, once they start speaking about their own world, the language is actually embedded into the real world, and it makes more sense and actually motivates and encourages, and students take more pride in their work and take more time and effort. Now, on the left-hand side at the bottom again, we've got SpeakPipe. In the future, I hope to be including more spoken work, more fluency work, where students are learning to listen to each other. There are voice forums on the internet. With SpeakPipe, you can actually link student comments onto a blog. And so students are learning to listen to other people and respond to other people. Now, how has this changed my perception of oral work in the class? Well, there's a new role for voice work, as it can be listened over and over and assessed, just as you're listening to me right now. People can watch this, listen to it again. This means both teachers and students can assess each other. There's a challenge within this. There's a challenge for the teacher of organising and sharing the material. So we're often talking here in Cordoba about how can we share the material, what platforms are there to use. It raises self-awareness among the students about their own speaking skills, and at the same time it's helping them to be better listeners, and as they're better listeners, they're listening to others in the class, and finally they're becoming more autonomous. Their speaking work is not only in the class, as I said before, class, time and space has been opened up, and what I'm trying to develop is an oral skills community. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Hi, Vedor is now going to speak in French, and we have Tiffany who's going to be on the chat doing a simultaneous translation. Is that right, Tiffany? Mm-hmm. Okay, great, thanks. So over to Vedor, who's talking about using QR codes.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Je vais donc vous parler de mon expérience avec les QR codes. Quand je les ai découverts, j'ai immédiatement pensé à leur utilisation en classe. Mais évidemment, je n'avais aucune idée de comment m'y prendre. C'est pour cette raison que j'ai commencé par de courts messages de texte et j'affichais un QR code à côté de la porte pour que les élèves puissent le scanner en sortant. Et ce QR code leur indiquait les devoirs qu'ils avaient à faire. Par exemple, exercice 4, page 85. Et ainsi, j'étais sûre que les élèves ne se tromperaient pas d'exercice ou n'inventeraient pas d'histoire disant qu'ils ne se rappelaient plus de ce qu'il fallait faire. Parce que le message reste enregistré sur l'historique de QR code. Maintenant, je fais des textes plus longs. J'essaye d'utiliser le maximum de caractères proposés par le générateur de QR code et je peux donner aux élèves des énoncés correspondant à une production écrite de niveau B2 comme celle que vous pouvez voir si vous scannez le QR code qui se trouve en haut à gauche. Bien sûr, je transforme aussi des liens en QR code pour renvoyer mes élèves à des informations précises comme des convocations aux examens du DELF, par exemple, à des fiches de grammaire en ligne ou encore à des vidéos ou des articles de presse que les élèves doivent présenter oralement en classe. Ici, l'utilisation du QR code est vraiment très commode et même fondamentale puisque les élèves arrivent directement sur le lien transformé, ce qui n'est pas toujours le cas lorsqu'on copie une adresse. Avec le générateur de QR Voice, je peux transformer un mot écrit ou une courte phrase en un message vocal que j'affiche dans les couloirs, par exemple, de l'école, et les élèves partent à la recherche de ces mots pour compléter un texte que je leur ai donné. Par exemple, dans le QR que je donne, on entend le verbe vouloir et l'exercice consistait à l'écrire dans la colonne correcte de verbes se conjuguant avec l'auxiliaire avoir au passé composé. Souvent, les vidéos ou les écoutes disparaissent du web. C'est pour cette raison que maintenant, lorsqu'une vidéo ou une écoute m'intéresse beaucoup, je la garde dans Dropbox. Pour n'importe quel document gardé dans Dropbox, j'obtiens un lien et je peux le transformer en QR. C'est très intéressant pour les textes longs, par exemple. Dans le cas des vidéos ou des écoutes, je transforme ce QR code et je le colle sur un questionnaire que j'ai fait et j'obtiens donc ainsi une compréhension orale. C'est ce que j'ai fait avec le vidéo que vous pouvez voir en scannant le QR code qui se trouve au centre, en bas. Ce vidéo sera visible aussi longtemps que je le voudrais, puisque ce vidéo est conservé dans mon compte Dropbox. Et c'est très intéressant. Bon, tout cela est possible bien sûr sur un ordinateur, mais j'utilise mon iPad parce que il m'offre plus de liberté. Je peux, grâce à mon iPad, faire que les élèves lisent les QR codes affichés dans les couloirs de l'école. Je peux les projeter grâce à AirServer sur le tableau sans avoir besoin de les imprimer. Je crois que l'utilisation des QR codes a rendu ma manière d'enseigner plus dynamique et plus interactive. Si vous décidez de les utiliser, n'hésitez pas à me joindre à l'adresse que vous découvrirez en scannant le QR central. Merci à tous de votre attention.
Hello again. I'm going to talk about all the games we play. We love them. Going back to the first days I turned up to class with my shiny new iPad, I can still remember the flurry it caused. Everyone whacking out their mobile phones, iPods and tablets. And the talk was one huge sharing of ideas, apps, social media and clouds. The conversation lasted for days. It was really fantastic. But the main theme in all the classes, from kids to adults, was, what games have you got? What games do you play? This game's great. Here, download this one and we'll play against you. And I noticed that every time we talked about games and they showed me what they were playing, the conversation was completely in English, no matter the level, because, get this, they play in English. When I asked them about this, to me, strange phenomena, they just said, well, of course. And being a teacher, I decided this was something I could milk. Games on the iPad are complex but easy to play because there are very few instructions needed. And then I discovered that I had quite a few proficiency students, mainly women in their 20s, surprisingly, who were serious gamers, mainly MMOs, massive multiplayer online games, and they firmly believed that this gaming had contributed to their success as language learners, and who am I to question that? There are now a lot of studies beginning to come out, and scientific evidence seems to point to be more on the side of benefits in gaming. Everything from improving social, math and reading skills to eyesight for kids with lazy eye. So, changing perceptions again. We tend to teach grammar and vocab in a linear way, you know, present simple today, present continuous tomorrow, but games make you change that completely and turn it on its head. For example, Big Piggies that you can see down in the bottom left-hand corner. It's a great game for all ages, really tough, but if you get stuck, there's a hint button and there are cheap videos in YouTube. Anyway, Big Piggies gives us the opportunity to present structures like, that won't work, that might work. If you put the engine there, it'll crash. He can't jump high enough with only one gas bottle. And if you give highest level students roles like mum and daughter, grumpy boss and tired worker, then the language changes completely. So I often use games as the basis for grammar and vocab presentations rather than the practice. I use a lot of screenshots of the beginning and middle of the game. This means you have to actually play it yourself before you go into class, which is such a terribly hard thing to do. The screenshots eliminate a lot of preliminary instructions and let us focus on the language we're going to need to actually play the game. We then have endless dialogue builds and discussions. Some are put on big sheets and blue tacked to the board or scattered around the desks. A lot are recorded on their phones. And to play the game, we use Air Server or Apple TV to mirror the iPad, but sitting in a tight circle and passing the iPad around and around and around works just as well. And a lot of these games are also available to play on PCs. Once students have played a little, we go back to the drawing board and fill in the gaps. Moments of language frustration teach us a lot. You know, modal verbs never appear early on in textbooks, but they tend to be the one thing we need, especially will, might and should. So here you can see some photos of our favourite iPad games and favourite moments. We often use mobile phones to record their preparatory conversations, listen to themselves and see how they made their suggestions or how they do agree and disagree. Are they being repetitive? Do they need to ask more questions and use the imperative less? And all those things. And these recorded preparatory conversations can then be used as models in other classes or later on with other games. It's also nice to keep recordings of their initial conversations at the beginning of the course and replay them at the end, just so they can hear how much they've progressed. It's excruciating, but it's fun, and students, especially adults, are often surprised by the change that they hadn't even noticed was happening. Actually, playing the game only takes a few seconds, but the build-up is enormous. Bottom right is a screenshot from one of the thousands of big fish games that can be played on PCs, as well as mobile phones and tablets and iPads. These games need a lot of tenses, especially the past. Where did we see the key we need for this door? There was a spade against that wall back in the house. What's the man doing in the top window? How can we get the fish out of the lake? Wasn't there a net in the garden? Lots of questions. And to finish, there's a list of the most popular online games that students said helped them practice their English. These are the games I'd love to get into in class, playing with other classes around the world. And I've mentioned Edutopia at the end because it's got a really good bibliography for research into gaming. Okay? Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so there's a question about the ages and the games, like, yeah. Hello. This is so to summarise. Basically, I hope you enjoyed everybody speaking. I'm going to sort of go round this this board from starting at the SAMRA comment there. Basically, this sort of implementation of technology, we're trying to base our philosophy on is this SAMRA model, which is coined by Rupin Puente-Puenteruda. Basically, he talks about SAMRA is the substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. So the idea is the kind of like any tech implementation, it should not just be substitution. So again, we talk about this in the article, that the focus is on using apps imaginatively, often combining apps to try and create and redefine what would never have been possible without the technology. So that's just a little sort of bit of theory. If we look towards the top of looking at the future looking, I think that people have mentioned that mobile connectivity is a reality, and the way our students, more and more, we will be bringing in their own devices. So we felt that putting the technology into the hands of the teachers, empowering them to then be able to, the students, help their students, because students are living in a we are living in a digital world. So likewise, just as a student needs to learn speaking, might need to learn face-to-face speaking skills, they will also need to learn them online, writing online, etc. So consequently, for me, I think one of the biggest changing perceptions that I've had during this project is that we've had to really look into the other issues about digital literacy, such as safety. I mean, if you notice Sue's slides, the students themselves are now so aware of, for example, they will hold up things covering their faces, not to take photos of students without express permission, as Nick said in his talk, all his students had permission forms. We need to be looking at copyright issues, plagiarism, and also we have some acceptable use policies to deal with these issues. And also, of course, part of digital literacy is actually know when to turn off the devices and to say no ourselves, that I no longer want to be connected. Okay, we move on to, I'm going to go down the bottom on the left-hand side where I'm talking about intuitive. An iPad is so intuitive. I mean, people have probably seen people at the beach with 3-4-year-olds being able to use them. So they cover all ages. And it's a whole world opening up to people. So as regards our training, I think we've learned very much from each other during this project, and we've been sharing a lot, and consequently the training has been very bottom up in the sense that as we've helped ourselves, also the teachers themselves, as they become more connected, they can go, they're learning to go, teachers are learning to go be a Twitter, personal learning networks, set up their own development. We are also kind of working on some sessions that we've been doing, and we're hoping to sort of take those sort of to Welver, which is our sister school. I mean, there are also obviously some great courses like the Consultants E do a fantastic course on M-learning that some of us have done here. And we're trying to make I think it's changed our perceptions about training as well. It's not this top-down training. I think we're looking at other ways of doing it. The sort of collaborative aspect works within classes. Sue once did a class where her older students created an app game for my younger students. Because it's so portable, you can just take one device into the class, or just show another teacher, hey, look at this, I found that. You don't have to sort of take them over to a computer to show things. So this collaborative also works, the actual iPad itself works in that way. Several people have mentioned about Alex and Nick, talking about the portability of the iPad, that you can just, you've got everything in one simple device. You're connected to the world, you're connected, the teachers are connected to teachers all over the world. You can go in there with your video camera, you've got audio, everything in one handy device. Like the webinar, like we're now doing this, we've been able to see these fantastic webinars. We can do this through the iPad, and we can go and sit and watch them on the sofa at home. Look at the non-lineal aspects. I mean, I personally, this is a personal thing, I've always hated like Word and PowerPoint and box ticking things. And this iPad, the whole iPad thing and app seems to work in a much more sort of, more like our brain works, more like my brain works. So I think it's creators for a much wider variety of different learning skills and intelligences. And I think it stimulates your imagination to actually want to create within class. You can sit on the sofa at home and think, I really want to make something exciting to take into my class, and I want to make exciting things with my students. Just for example, something as simple as the Pinterest thing that we've got at the end. I would have hated to go through and type in a whole load of websites and do some sort of webiography, but to sit there and like pin some exciting pictures for me was much more fun way of doing it. And I think we're all finding that with our classes, etc. Nick was talking about, I think the only talk I've actually managed to see today was the David Petcher one, because we've actually been teaching. But he was talking a lot about practicing the language, not just practicing the language, the whole sort of project idea, making meaningful use of a meaning condition, I think he mentioned, which is like what we're doing all this project using the target language and using it for purposes that the students are really enjoying, and we are really enjoying doing them. So to sum up, I'd just like to say, yeah, it's great. The iPads have been inspiring and fun for us to use, and please, we would really suggest go out and get your schools to buy you them. And if you wish us to come and persuade your directors or whatever, we would be delighted. We'd love to come, particularly to, where would you like to go? Brazil? We'd love to go to Brazil, particularly. Yeah, anywhere nice, anyway, exotic location. Yes, coming up, question time. So we'd kind of finished. Thank you very much for listening, but we thought we'd leave the rest of the time for any questions. Can we all gather around?
So if you've got any questions, add them into the board.
Well, yeah, or whatever. Can we?
I've just muted your mic for a second so I can speak, then I don't echo back. So if you've got any questions for the team, put them into the board. I hope you found it as informative as I do, but I like them. I'm a bit of an iPad addict, so I love these sessions. There is a question in there. Did you see it? I'm putting your mic back on.
Hello?
Yeah, your mic's back on.
Oh.
I apologise when you switch off the iPad. Yeah, I found that it's quite important to switch off the iPad when I'm still trying to do a project at home and it's 4 in the morning. That's the bad thing about it. You end up working for free for hour upon hour. Yeah, but normally it's because I'm so interested in what they've been doing that I can end up wasting my entire evening or early hours of the morning and think, no, so that's the important time in classroom. I don't feel that there's ever been a time, that if I see anyone exploiting, I let them go on my Wi-Fi, and if I see anyone ever like trying to send a text or something, they just normally feel so embarrassed immediately. They go, I'm sorry.
Any engaging activities for older business students? There's not many businesses in Spain. Right. So, do anyone want to answer that?
No.
We haven't really looked at the business apps, to be fair.
No.
It's not. All of our stuff so far has been what we actually take.
Sorry, Pepper.
Yeah, all the stuff that we've been using in class. I'm sure that if I have business classes, I'm sure that there are a lot of stuff out there.
No, the question about a lot of fun uses for the iPad are directed at younger students. The games were used with adults. Those games that we talked about, that's adults. and sorry, adults play Bad Piggies. We love it, and they play Plants vs Zombies. We love it, and there's absolutely there's no division between ages with an iPad. So yeah, I mean, adults and kids, you can play the same things. You can use the same apps and the same ideas across levels and across age groups.
Yeah, I agree with what Sean says. Yeah, it's not the app, it's what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wanted to type in there's 5 critical mistakes with iPads. That's a great article. And there's one of the things is don't focus on content-based apps.
No.
Yeah, go and try Bad Piggies. No, but I'd get a mini. Sue prefers the bigger one for holding it up. But
yeah, I prefer the big one so I can make flashcards and things like that. It's easier when you haven't got any form of mirroring for the whiteboard. If you're just using it in class as a whiteboard itself, it's easier with a bigger one.
Oh, I've got a question.
You answered the question.
No, but I want to ask anyone because I can see that there's a few of my colleagues there that I've mentioned this to before. But basically, if I've done some sort of video interviews using FaceTime, doing exactly what we're doing now, only with a classroom, and I really want to start linking some classes. I know that I've asked Lisa, I can see you on there. I'm sure I mentioned it to you before. But if there's anyone out there that has got an iPad and they do use it in their class, I'd be really interested in linking, if we've got any time, with the time differences, if we've got any classrooms going at the same time, I'd love to be able to do a Q&A session between the students.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It would be nice to connect up more with if we could, you know.
That's a good idea. That's something that we could follow up.
There we go. Geneva. Thanks, Rachel. Let's do it.
We'd love to go to Geneva too. Oh no! Why did we get these iPads?
Okay, I'll leave you to hook up. Rachel, time is ticking, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to do a close now. Thanks so much for coming in. So thanks so much for joining us, all 7 of you. It's a lovely mix of languages and things. I'm sure we all got out a lot of it. And if you do want to share stuff, and they're all waving goodbye. Thank you so much for coming in and doing it. And that's it. We've reached the end of day 1 without too many hitches. So just to remind you that that tomorrow, as this is a 2-day conference, tomorrow is on this link, and thankfully I can hand over all the organizational duties to Heike tomorrow. Hope you have enjoyed day 1 of the conference. There's been lots of sessions. All the sessions will be coming online very shortly. Thanks to the moderators today. Thanks for Heike for being in about 15 places at once to get everything set up and live stream. I'll see you very early tomorrow morning in London, Heike. Thanks very much to Neil for sharing the moderation duties with me and everybody that was tweeting out. I know some of you have been here as long as us, which is great, but mad. I hope you'll join us tomorrow. Remember, we're not in this room tomorrow.
All the thanks have got to go to you, really. I mean, you organised the whole thing and you kept it going all day long, got everybody prepared. Yeah. And
somebody came online and said it all looked very smooth. They really couldn't see all the hassles that were going on behind. So far today we've had at least 2 internets broken down and this, that, and the other. So I'm surprised everything did go as well as it looks. Anyway. Remember, tomorrow we're on that link. Okay, it is a face-to-face conference that we are beaming out live. Although there are bound to be far more of you online than there are in the room, so we'll be the bigger audience and we'll have a nice time together. Talking online. So if you do miss stuff, we will be recording it. There are no certificates of attendance. This is just our fun anniversary. We are offering it to you all for free. We don't make a list of who's attended, so we can't really give certificates.